The final set of Fortnite's Oathbound quests are here, and with them the story just took a big twist as it slowly builds up to Season 2. The big twist being that the Shapeless Man was actually not the Nothing as the majority of us seem to believe, but rather it was Geno. With this new revelation come a lot of inquiries regarding the Shapeless Man, such as how is Geno the Shapeless Man, why is the Shapeless Man not the Nothing, what is Geno's plan with the Rift Gate, where did the Rift Gate align to, who sabotaged the Rift Gate, what is coming through the rift in the sky, and what should we expect for Fortnite Season 2. There's a lot of questions to answer here, and before we start, spoiler warning for part 5 of the Oathbound quests and next season. So without further ado, let's unravel the enigma of the Shapeless Man. Geno being the Shapeless Man has been a community theory for some time now, but it has been mainly overshadowed by the Nothing being the Shapeless Man, considering all the dark descriptions Stellan gave us about the Shapeless Man, which seems rather confusing, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense that Geno is the Shapeless Man. This now leads to our first two questions. How is Geno the Shapeless Man, and why is the Shapeless Man not the Nothing? As I mentioned in my previous video, the Shapeless Man is described by Stellan as impatient, a nightmare, a cold wind, dark whispers, and that he watches us with dark purpose and threatens with destruction. This led a majority of us, including me, to believe the Shapeless Man was the Nothing, but I believe all those descriptions were meant to be a red herring to distract us from who the true identity of the Shapeless Man is and led us to believe a false conclusion of the Nothing being the Shapeless Man. The evidence to back up the claim of Geno being the Shapeless Man is that in part 4 of the Oathbound quest, Stellan says he hasn't dreamed of the Shapeless Man for centuries, and that our refined kinetic ore, which if you remember we got in the beginning of the season from the Paradigm before she vanished, returned him back to Stellan.
I did not dream of him for centuries. Your refined kinetic ore returned him to me.
There must have been a good reasoning for why the Paradigm gave us this refined kinetic ore, but I don't think it was to aid Geno, but rather Paradigm knew Amy could build a body out of that material and save the Seven from a fate darker than the worst imaginable. Going back to the Shapeless Man returning in Stellan's dreams, this begins to prove that the Shapeless Man is Geno because the imagined order and the bridge were completely destroyed, including the kinetic ore panels / aligners that allowed the imagined order to align the 0 point to any reality and also give them full control of the loop. This means that the Shapeless Man wants that refined kinetic ore, and if it's Geno, he most likely wants to rebuild the bridge, which will enable him to gain control over the island once more. But that's not all. Stellan mentions the Shapeless Man's gaze burns into him.
I cannot sleep. The Shapeless Man's gaze burns into me.
Which signifies the Shapeless Man has eyes, and I think he probably sees Geno's yellow glowing eyes that we also saw during the collision event. Personally, I don't think the Nothing has eyes, instead it's just darkness with a voice. He continues to state that the Shapeless Man does not care if opening the Rift Gate rends / splits the islands in two, just like Geno did not care about completely wiping out all life on the island with the Collider. Then, in part 5 of the leaked Oathbound quest, Stellan seeks the forbidden works of the exiled sages from the Oathbound to further understand the sky rift accidentally opened by the Rift Gate and possibly find answers to how we can stop it. He finds texts that prophesize a beautiful monster enabled by the hubris of a champion.
This text prophesies a beautiful monster enabled by the hubris of a champion.
At first, that doesn't make any sense. How can a monster be beautiful, and what does hubris mean? Maybe the being doesn't have to look ugly on the outside, it can look perfect and beautiful on the outside, but on the inside, they're a monster. Hubris also means arrogance, and the champion is most certainly referring to the ageless champion, which leads me to believe that the beautiful monster is Geno. We know that Geno is genetically perfect and strives for absolute perfection. In the collision event, rather than seeing a normal version of Geno, we see a dark, twisted, smoky version of him. And I think that was the 0 point showing us Geno's true self, a monster. And I think that's what Stellan sees in his dreams. The reason why Geno most likely looked like that dark, shadowy figure was because Geno is so focused on achieving absolute perfection that it led him to such dark places which ruined him on the inside. But he probably doesn't even care. All he cares about is achieving absolute perfection. But such perfection is not possible. There are always flaws. His daughters, who were made to be genetically perfect, had flaws. The imagined order, a place that is meant to be perfect and where Geno imagined true order, had flaws. And these flaws must drive him insane, making him resort to dark measures in order to accomplish his goal. Finally, to add a cherry on top of it all, near the end of part 5 of the Oathbound quest, Stellan says the Shapeless Man always imagined a world of perfect order.
He always said he imagined a world of perfect order.
And no, I did not forget about the dark descriptions describing the Shapeless Man, but we know practically nothing about Geno other than his obsession with perfection. He's the leader of the Imagined Order, he has 2 daughters, and he's evil. That's it. He may be far darker than we think, and we will soon find out more about him that will show us his dark side. Nevertheless, this poses the question, what is Geno's plan with the Riftgate? Geno probably wants to get the refined kinetic ore and perhaps take over the Oathbound, regain control of the 0 point, and continue his plans after they were put to a hold during the war between the Seven and the Imagined Order. In the last few quests for part 5 of the Oathbound quest, Stellan mentions that he sleeps with no dreams and that the Shapeless Man thinks he has won after the rift in the sky opened.
The rift is growing. I sleep without dreams. The Shapeless Man thinks he has won.
But why? I think it may be because this was all a part of his plan. My theory is that after Geno fell into the 0 point, his cells went to every single reality as proven with whoever touches the uncalibrated 0 point in the Batman Fortnite comics, and he was most likely rebuilding himself at his will, meaning he can pause the reconstruction of his body at any time he wills to, which I believe he did. Considering his cells went to every single reality in the infinite, never-ending vast omniverse, Geno probably paused his reconstruction and wanted Stellan to build the Riftgate to his exact coordinates and would rebuild himself once the Riftgate opened to his location. But he had a backup plan like he always does. If the Riftgate were to be meddled with and the coordinates changed like what happened in part 4 of the Oathbound quest, his cells would be in almost every reality, so he can just teleport over to the reality the Riftgate opened to if one of his cells are there and finish rebuilding himself. One thing I learned about Geno is that he is always 2 steps ahead of everyone, just like how he was in Zero War and how he may be now if he turns out to be the Shapeless Man. In the second set of Oathbound quests, Stellan also mentioned that the Shapeless Man watches us with dark purpose. He probably knew which reality the Saboteur was going to align the 0 point to, so he prepared, and that's why he is no longer causing nightmares for Stellan, because he was 2 steps ahead. But which reality did the Riftgate align to, and who sabotaged the Riftgate? In part 4 of the Oathbound quest, we assist Rift Warden Stellan by activating the Riftgate. Whilst doing the quest, we find out someone sabotaged and changed the coordinates of the Riftgate, sending it to a place the Riftgate was not intended to go to. Out of nowhere, a lantern pops out of the Riftgate. A lantern is a strange object to pop out of the Riftgate, considering that Amy said she's going to save the scientist who is currently, from what we know, located in the last reality. Or maybe he's not in the last reality anymore. This is just a theory, but I believe that Amy is already too late and will not be able to save the scientist since a lantern came out of the Riftgate, which means if this was Amy's doing, which it most likely is considering the quests were building up to her going through the Riftgate, the second it is online to save the scientist is already being used as a weapon of the last reality and was sent to another reality by TLR, which is most likely the Fox Clan's reality, explaining why a lantern came to the Riftgate. There is more proof to back this up, which also ties into our final 2 questions. What is coming through the rift in the sky, and what should we expect in Fortnite Season 2? Leakers have announced that there will be a new Drift skin in the upcoming Battle Pass, a new version of Lucky Landing, and that the next season will have a futuristic Japanese/Neo-Tokyo theme. The Peace Syndicate are also making their way onto the island according to the new Cypher quests. But something really interesting that was mentioned in the latest Cypher quest was that the syndicates are in chaos. I find this rather interesting since this message indicates that the Peace Syndicate is just one of many. I think next season will have a ton of story regarding the Peace Syndicate, the Fox Clan, the Imagined Order, and possibly the last reality. What do you guys think about all of this? Let me know in the comments below. Consider subscribing if you enjoy Fortnite storyline videos, a like is appreciated, and please consider using my code Rezztro in the item shop. It means a lot. Thank you all for watching, and see you guys in the next one. Take care.